Have you checked your bank account lately? If you receive Social Security, SSI, or SSDI benefits, there's a real possibility that an unexpected deposit could appear, and it may not be your regular monthly payment. These extra deposits can include cost of living adjustments that were delayed, back payments that finally got processed, and supplemental benefits that some people have quietly been waiting months to receive. Imagine logging in and seeing more there than you expected just in time to cover groceries, prescriptions, heating bills, or maybe even something small that simply makes life feel lighter for a moment. Perhaps it's enough to finally replace those worn-out shoes you've been putting off buying. Maybe it means you can afford to send a birthday card to your grandchild with a little something extra tucked inside. Or perhaps it simply means one less night lying awake worrying about how the numbers will add up this month. A lot of people right now are asking the same questions. Am I eligible? How much could I actually receive, and when would this money show up? Is this something I need to apply for, or does it happen automatically? Will I need to pay it back later? And most importantly, is this even real, or is it just another rumor spreading through the internet that gets people's hopes up for nothing? In this video, we're going to walk through everything together step by step in plain language. No hype, no fear, no complicated financial jargon that makes you feel like you need a law degree just to understand your own benefits. My goal is to help you understand what these deposits are, why they happen, who they're meant for, what to do if one shows up in your account, and what it means if you don't see one. We'll also talk about how to protect yourself from the scammers who unfortunately show up whenever news like this starts circulating. My name is Susan Harper. For over 10 years, I've worked with American seniors across the country, widows, veterans, caregivers, people living on fixed incomes, helping them protect their savings, avoid costly mistakes, and feel calmer about their financial future. I've sat across kitchen tables from people who were terrified they'd made a terrible error with their paperwork. I've walked alongside widows who suddenly found themselves managing finances they'd never handled before. I've helped veterans understand benefits they'd earned but never knew existed. And I've spent countless hours translating government language into words that actually make sense to real people living real lives. I know firsthand how confusing Social Security updates can feel. The letters arrive in official envelopes with dense paragraphs full of terms like primary insurance amount and retroactive adjustments and supplemental security income thresholds. They rarely explain things in a way that helps you understand what's actually happening or what you're supposed to do about it. I also know how emotional money becomes after 60. It isn't just dollars and cents on a screen. It's security, dignity, independence, and peace of mind. It's the difference between feeling safe and feeling vulnerable. It's the ability to maintain the life you worked so hard to build. That's why I'm here with you today. I want you to have the facts to understand what's real and what's just noise, and to feel confident instead of worried or confused. By the end of this video, you'll know what these special deposits are, who might receive them and why, what to do if you see one in your account, how to verify that it's legitimate, and how to protect yourself from scams that often pop up when news like this spreads. You'll also understand what it means if you don't receive a deposit, so you're not left wondering whether something went wrong or whether you were somehow forgotten. If this helps you feel a little more informed, a little more steady, and a little more in control of your own financial situation, then I'm truly glad we spent this time together. So let's start by understanding what these special deposits actually are, because I think there's a lot of confusion and misunderstanding floating around right now. When you hear someone say that Social Security is sending out extra payments, it can sound like free bonus money that everyone automatically receives, like some kind of stimulus check or government giveaway program. That's not what's happening here, and it's important we're clear about that from the very beginning. These deposits are usually corrections, adjustments, or payments that were owed but delayed somewhere along the line. They're not gifts. They're not rewards for being a good citizen or for having worked a certain number of years. They're simply the government catching up on money that should have been paid to you earlier but wasn't for one reason or another. Sometimes it happens because cost of living increases were calculated and then later needed to be adjusted. The COLA percentage gets announced, it gets applied to millions of accounts, and then somewhere in that massive process, the system discovers that certain accounts didn't get quite the right amount. Maybe your base benefit was calculated slightly differently than it should have been. Maybe there was a rounding issue or a timing issue. Whatever the reason, when the Social Security Administration realizes there's been an underpayment, they issue what's called a back payment to make up the difference. Other times, the Social Security Administration reviews someone's records during a routine audit or update and realizes they were being underpaid, even by a small amount each month. When you multiply that small amount by 6 months or a year or sometimes even longer, it adds up, and when they catch it, they issue a lump sum payment for all those months where you should have been receiving more but weren't. In some situations, a disability claim is finally approved after months of waiting, reviews, appeals, and paperwork. When that approval finally comes through, the person doesn't just start receiving benefits from that point forward. The Social Security Administration looks back at all the months the person was eligible but waiting for approval, and they send funds for those months they were eligible but didn't yet receive benefits. That can sometimes result in a substantial lump sum deposit that covers many months of back payments all at once. Another reason these deposits appear is when earnings records get updated, and this happens more often than you might think. Maybe an employer reported income late after the tax year had already closed. Maybe a previous calculation missed a year of earnings or incorrectly recorded your wages. Maybe you worked in a job that wasn't covered by Social Security for part of your career, and then those records got clarified later. When the system corrects it, your benefit amount can change, and the difference is sent automatically. You don't have to apply for it or request it. The system identifies the discrepancy, recalculates what you should have been receiving, and issues the correction. There are also supplemental payments that occasionally go out to SSI recipients when the system recognizes that they should have qualified for a slightly higher amount in earlier months. SSI calculations are incredibly complex because they're based not just on your work history, but also on your current financial situation, your living arrangements, whether you're receiving help from family members, and many other factors. When any of those factors change, or when the system realizes it assessed something incorrectly, adjustments get made and payments get issued. All of these fall under the umbrella of what we're calling special deposits, but they are not part of your usual monthly benefit. They are separate. They are specific to your individual situation, and they are calculated based on your personal records, not a blanket program that everyone receives automatically just because they're on Social Security. It's important to remember something, and I say this gently and with care. Not everyone will see one of these deposits, and that's perfectly normal and completely okay. In fact, most people won't receive one. In many cases, it simply means your benefits have already been calculated correctly from the beginning, and nothing needs to be adjusted. There is nothing wrong, nothing missing, and nothing unfair happening. These deposits are not rewards, and they're not gifts. They're not something the government decided to hand out to certain people because they like them better or because they worked harder. They are simply the government catching up when the system finds an underpayment or processes something later than planned. If you don't receive one, it doesn't mean you've been overlooked or forgotten. It means your account is accurate. It means the system did what it was supposed to do when it was supposed to do it. Some people may receive $120, some may see $500, and a smaller group may receive something closer to $1,500 or $2,000, depending entirely on their individual case, how long the underpayment went on, and what the monthly difference was. There's no standard amount because every person's situation is different. Your work history is different from your neighbor's. Your benefit calculation is different. Your timing of when you applied and when you were approved is different. All of these factors play into whether you receive an adjustment and how much that adjustment might be. What matters most is understanding what these payments represent so that if you do see one, you're calm, informed, and prepared instead of confused or suspicious. And if you don't see one, you can move forward with confidence knowing that your benefits are being paid correctly and there's no cause for concern. Now, let's dig a little deeper into why these special deposits actually happen in the first place. Understanding the why can take away so much anxiety and confusion. When you understand the mechanics behind something, it stops feeling mysterious or threatening and starts feeling like just another part of how the system works. A big reason is something most of us are familiar with: cost of living adjustments, or COLA. Each year, benefits are adjusted to help keep up with inflation and rising costs. You've probably noticed this. Your benefit amount goes up slightly most years, usually announced in October and taking effect in January. But sometimes those adjustments don't line up perfectly with everyone's personal record right away. The Social Security Administration is dealing with tens of millions of accounts, and applying a percentage increase across all of them is an enormous computational task. Maybe the system applied the COLA increase to your account, but then later realized that your base benefit should have been slightly different before the COLA was applied. That means the COLA calculation itself was off by a small amount. When that happens, the Social Security Administration corrects it and sends the difference. It isn't extra money out of nowhere. It's simply the amount that should have been there all along. You weren't receiving a bonus before, and you're not receiving a bonus now. You're just finally receiving the correct amount that your work history and benefit calculation entitles you to. Another common situation happens when someone's work history or earnings records get updated, and this is more common than many people realize. Sometimes employers report information late. If you worked for a small business or changed jobs frequently, sometimes earnings don't get reported to Social Security until well after the year has ended. Sometimes paperwork is corrected years later when someone discovers an error in their records. And occasionally, records from older jobs don't match up until the system reviews them again. During a periodic audit or when you reach a certain milestone like full retirement age. When Social Security recalculates benefits using the corrected numbers, they may realize a person has been underpaid, sometimes for months or even years. Instead of changing only future payments going forward, they also go back and pay what was missed. That's why you'll sometimes hear people say they received a deposit out of the blue, but it wasn't really out of the blue. It was a correction that had been quietly working its way through the system for months, maybe even years, before it finally showed up in their bank account. There are also disability-related payments that take time, and anyone who's been through the SSDI application process knows just how slow and complex it can be. For many SSDI recipients, approvals don't always happen immediately. In fact, immediate approval is fairly rare. A person may apply, go through initial reviews, submit more documents, undergo medical examinations, provide additional evidence, wait for decisions, and sometimes even appeal before finally being approved. That entire process can take 6 months, a year, or sometimes even longer. When that approval finally comes, the SSA doesn't just start paying benefits from the approval date. They look back at the months the person should have been receiving benefits, typically from the date they became disabled according to their medical evidence and application, and they send what's owed for all those months of waiting. That lump sum amount can sometimes look like a special deposit, but it's really just catching up on all the months that the person was eligible, but waiting for the system to process their claim. The same can happen with SSI, especially if there were delays in processing or if someone was approved, but the final calculations took longer than expected. SSI has its own set of complex rules about income, resources, living arrangements, and eligibility. When all of those factors finally get sorted out and the approval comes through, back payments get issued for the months the person was eligible, but not yet receiving benefits. And then there's something many people never hear about, something that doesn't make headlines but affects thousands of people every year: administrative backlogs. The Social Security system handles millions of cases every single year. Despite what some people believe, it's not all automated. Human beings work inside the system. They review documents, make decisions, process applications, handle appeals, and deal with complex cases that can't be handled by computers alone. And sometimes things take longer than anyone intended. There might be a backlog of cases waiting for review. There might be staffing shortages in certain offices. There might be a particularly complicated case that requires multiple departments to coordinate. Whatever the reason, when those delays are finally resolved, the payments that should have been sent earlier are processed and they arrive as what looks like unexpected extra money. But again, it's not extra. It's just late. It's the system finally catching up with what should have been paid on time but wasn't. None of this is meant to be mysterious or secretive. The Social Security Administration isn't hiding anything or playing games. It's simply a massive system processing an enormous number of cases, and sometimes things take longer than anyone would like. When they finally get resolved, the money that was owed gets paid, one person and one record at a time. So, who might actually see one of these deposits, and who likely won't? Let's walk through this slowly and honestly, because I want you to have realistic expectations. I don't want you spending weeks refreshing your bank account, waiting for something that may never come. And I also don't want you to miss something that's legitimately owed to you. Some retirees receiving traditional Social Security retirement benefits may see adjustments if something in their history was corrected or recalculated. Maybe they worked a bit longer than the system initially expected. Maybe a previous year of income was added late, after their benefits had already been calculated. Maybe they had earnings from a job that wasn't initially counted, like work for a state or local government that wasn't covered by Social Security at the time. Or maybe they were slightly underpaid after a previous change to their benefits, like when they switched from receiving benefits on their own record to receiving spousal benefits or vice versa. In those situations, a deposit might show up, and it can range from something small, maybe $75 or $100, to something more noticeable, like several $100s or more. The amount entirely depends on how long the error went on and how much the monthly difference was. SSI recipients may also be included in these waves of deposits, especially when appeals, delays, or recalculations took place. SSI is based heavily on financial need, and the calculations are incredibly sensitive to small changes. Changes in income, changes in housing situations, changes in whether someone is receiving help from family members, changes in marital status. All of these can shift benefit amounts. If the system later realizes it calculated something incorrectly, a supplemental payment might be issued. Sometimes it's modest, maybe $100 or $200. Other times, if the delay went on longer or if the monthly difference was larger, it can add up to more, potentially several $100s or even over $1,000 in some cases. For SSDI recipients, the story can look different, and the amounts can sometimes be larger. Disability cases often move slowly, and they involve multiple layers of review, medical evaluations, documentation, and sometimes appeals. When a person is approved or reevaluated, the SSA sometimes discovers that they were owed more than they had been receiving, or they realize that the person should have been receiving benefits for months or years before the approval finally came through. That's when back payments can appear as lump sum deposits. These are not rewards or bonuses. They are catch-up payments for months or even years where benefits were owed but delayed because the application and approval process took so long. For someone who waited a year for approval, that could mean 12 months of back payments arriving all at once, which can add up to a substantial amount. But here's something I want to be very clear about, and I want you to really hear this. Many people, in fact, most people, will not receive any special deposit. And that does not mean anything is wrong or unfair. In most cases, it simply means your benefits were already correct from the beginning. There wasn't an underpayment, there wasn't a calculation error, there wasn't a delay in processing. Nothing needed to be updated or corrected. And honestly, that's a good thing. It means your payments have been accurate and steady. It means the system worked the way it was supposed to work for you. I also want to gently warn against comparing your situation to friends or relatives. One person may receive $500 because of a back payment from a delayed disability approval. Another person may receive nothing because their retirement benefit record is already fully up to date and has been calculated correctly all along. Social Security isn't like a sale at the grocery store where everyone gets the same discount or the same deal. It's calculated individually based on decades of work history, individual records, different types of benefits, different approval timings, and thousands of other personal factors. When we remember that, when we truly understand that Social Security is deeply personal and individualized, we can approach all of this with calmer expectations and clearer thinking. And that's exactly what I want for you. I want you to understand the system well enough that you're not left feeling confused, jealous, worried, or overlooked. Now, let's talk about when these deposits usually show up, because timing is one of the biggest sources of confusion and anxiety. Most people are used to their regular Social Security deposit arriving like clockwork. If you're receiving retirement benefits, your payment probably arrives on the second, third, or fourth Wednesday of the month, depending on your birth date. SSI, on the other hand, usually arrives on the first of the month or the last business day of the previous month if the first falls on a weekend or holiday. Those schedules are familiar, predictable, and comforting. You know when to expect your money, and you can plan around it. But special deposits don't always follow that same rhythm. Sometimes they arrive a few days before your regular payment. Sometimes they arrive a few days after. And sometimes they show up right in the middle of the week when you weren't expecting anything at all. You might check your account on a random Thursday afternoon and suddenly see an unexpected deposit that wasn't there that morning. That's because these payments are usually processed in batches. The Social Security Administration doesn't process every single adjustment individually as soon as it's discovered. Instead, they review groups of accounts, identify what needs to be corrected, process those corrections together, and then send the money through the Treasury system. Depending on where your case falls in that batch processing system, you might receive your deposit earlier or later than someone else who's receiving a similar adjustment. Banks also play a role in the timing. Depending on where you bank, deposits may appear earlier in the day, later in the day, or even be held briefly before showing up on your statement. Some banks post deposits from the federal government immediately when they receive them. Others hold them until a certain time of day. That's not the bank being difficult. It's just how different banking systems handle electronic transfers. When one of these payments arrives, it may show up with wording like SSA, Treasury, Social Security Administration, benefit payment, or something similar in the transaction description. It won't normally say bonus or special program or extra payment or anything flashy or unusual. It should look official and familiar, the way your normal Social Security payments look, just with a different amount and sometimes arriving at a different time than you're used to. If you don't see anything yet, it doesn't automatically mean something is wrong or that you've been skipped over. These deposits can roll out over days or even weeks, depending on what type of adjustment they are and how long your particular correction has been waiting in the system. Some adjustments might be processed and paid within days. Others might take weeks to work through the system, and some might not happen at all if there's nothing that needs correcting in your account. My advice is simple and practical. Check your bank account regularly, maybe once a day or every couple of days, but try not to obsess over it or refresh your banking app constantly every hour. Give it time, be patient, and remember, not everyone will receive one of these deposits. If weeks go by and you genuinely believe there should have been an adjustment based on something specific in your situation, like if your work records were recently updated or if you received a letter saying a correction was coming, that's when you can contact Social Security directly. Not because you're owed something guaranteed, not because everyone else is getting money and you're not, but because you simply want clarity about your own specific account and situation. Now let's talk about what to do if a deposit suddenly appears in your account, because this part really matters and I want you to handle it wisely. The very first step, and I cannot emphasize this enough, is to pause. Take a breath. Sit down if you need to. It's tempting to feel immediate relief and start planning how to spend it, especially if you've been stretching every dollar and worrying about bills. But before anything else, before you transfer money, before you pay bills, before you tell anyone, make sure you understand where the money actually came from. Look at the transaction in your online banking or your bank statement. Does it show as coming from SSA, the Social Security Administration, or the U.S. Treasury? If so, that's a good sign that it's legitimate. If it shows as coming from some other source, or if the description looks unusual or unfamiliar, be cautious. Next, check your mail over the next several days, or log into your online Social Security account if you have one set up. Often, the SSA sends a letter explaining why the deposit was issued and exactly how they calculated it. That letter might include details about which months the payment covers, what the adjustment was for, and how they arrived at the specific amount. Sometimes the letter arrives before the money, sometimes it arrives on the same day, and sometimes it comes days or even weeks after the deposit hits your account. Don't panic if you see the money before you see the letter. Just keep an eye out for it. Once you've confirmed that the deposit is legitimate, that it really did come from Social Security and not from some other source or some kind of error, I encourage you to take a quick screenshot or write down the date, the exact amount, and how it appeared on your bank statement. Keep that note with your financial papers, maybe in a folder or envelope where you keep your Social Security documents. It might not seem important right now, but having your own record makes things much easier if questions ever come up later, if you need to reference it for tax purposes, or if there's ever any confusion about whether you received the payment. After that, give the deposit a couple of days to fully clear and settle in your account. Even though it shows up immediately and you can see it in your balance, letting it sit for 48 hours helps you avoid any potential issues with pending holds, bank processing times, or system corrections. It's rare, but occasionally deposits get reversed if there was an error. Waiting a day or two helps ensure the money is truly yours to use. Then comes the thoughtful part, the part where you decide how to actually use this money, and this is where I want you to be very intentional and deliberate. I always tell my clients that unexpected money is the easiest money to lose. When it feels like extra, when it feels like a bonus or a windfall, it tends to disappear quickly, and we often can't remember where it went. But for many seniors, this money isn't extra. It's not a windfall. It's catching up on money that should have been paid to you earlier, but wasn't. Consider putting a small portion aside for emergencies if you don't already have an emergency cushion. Even $50 or $100 can be a meaningful safety cushion when a tire blows out, when a prescription cost suddenly increases, when a home repair pops up unexpectedly, or when you need to travel to see a family member who's ill. Having that little bit set aside can prevent you from having to choose between necessities later. If you have overdue bills or balances that have been weighing on your mind, using part of the deposit to relieve that stress can make a real difference in your peace of mind. Maybe you've been carrying a credit card balance or a medical bill that you've been paying down slowly. Maybe your property taxes are coming due and you've been worried about how to cover them. Taking care of those obligations can lift a tremendous weight off your shoulders. If your health needs have been delayed because of money concerns, this might be the moment to finally take care of yourself. New glasses that you've been putting off because your prescription is a couple of years old, dental work that you know needs to be done but you've been avoiding because of the cost, a checkup or screening that you've been postponing. Your health is not something to sacrifice, and if this deposit can help you address health needs that have been neglected, that's money very well spent. And yes, it's absolutely okay to treat yourself to something small too, something that brings joy or comfort, a dinner out at a restaurant you've been wanting to try, a gift for a grandchild that you've been wishing you could afford, a book, a hobby supply, a small home improvement that will make your daily life more pleasant. Something that reminds you that life isn't just about surviving and paying bills. The key is doing it intentionally and thoughtfully, not impulsively. Think about what would truly bring you joy or relief, not just what catches your eye in the moment. One more gentle but important reminder. Be careful about telling many people exactly how much you received. Not everyone needs to know your financial business. I know it's exciting and you might want to share good news, but sharing too much can sometimes invite pressure, requests for loans, suggestions about how you should spend your money, or even unwanted attention from people who might not have your best interests at heart. Your finances are deeply personal, and you're allowed to keep them private. You earned this money through your years of work and contributions. It's part of your benefit, and you have every right to use it wisely in whatever way supports your own peace of mind and well-being, without having to explain or justify your choices to others. Whenever news spreads about extra Social Security deposits, something unfortunate and predictable tends to follow. Scammers show up and they move fast. I want to talk about this gently but very clearly because protecting you matters to me more than anything else we've discussed today. This is serious, and I need you to really pay attention to this section. Scammers know that seniors are often honest, trusting, and just trying to understand what's happening with their benefits. They know that when money is involved, emotions run high. Fear and hope can both cloud our judgment. They also know that many seniors didn't grow up with technology and might not immediately recognize the warning signs of a scam that younger people might spot right away. So scammers deliberately target older adults, and they use fear and urgency as their primary weapons. You might get a phone call from someone claiming to be from Social Security. They might have an official sounding voice. They might even have some of your personal information, like your address or your approximate benefit amount, which makes them seem legitimate. They'll tell you that your deposit is on hold, that there's been a problem with your account, that you need to verify your information right away or you'll lose the money. They'll say they need your full Social Security number, your bank account number, or other personal information to release your payment or to process your deposit. You might receive a text message that looks like it came from an official source with a link that says, "Click here to activate your payment," or "Verify your information to receive your deposit." The link might even take you to a website that looks somewhat official, with government seals and official language, but it's fake. It's designed to steal your information. You might get an email with similar content warning you that you need to take action immediately or you'll miss out on your payment. Or someone might tell you that there's a processing fee required before your deposit can be sent, and they'll ask you to pay it using gift cards, wire transfer, or some other method that can't be traced or reversed. Let me say this as clearly and emphatically as I possibly can. The Social Security Administration will never, ever call you out of the blue to ask for your full Social Security number, your bank account details, your PIN numbers, gift cards, or any kind of fee to unlock or release a deposit. If someone calls you and asks for any of those things, it is not Social Security. I don't care how official they sound. I don't care if they have caller ID that says Social Security Administration. I don't care if they know some of your personal information. It is a scammer, period. A good rule to live by is this. If a call or message makes you feel rushed, threatened, pressured, or scared, hang up immediately, take a breath, step back, ask yourself, would the government really handle things this way? Would they really call out of the blue and demand information immediately? Would they really threaten you or pressure you? The answer is no. Real Social Security communication is slow, official, and written. They use letters. They use the postal mail. They send things to the address they have on file for you, and when you need to call them, you call through the official number, either the one listed on their website, the one on your benefit statement, or the one on a letter they previously sent you. You don't get transferred there from some mysterious caller who contacted you first. If you ever feel unsure about whether a call or message is legitimate, trust that feeling. Your instincts are valuable. Hang up. Don't engage, don't answer questions, don't provide any information. Then, if you want to check on your account, call the real Social Security Administration using a number you find yourself on their official website or on your benefit paperwork. Don't call a number the caller gave you. Look it up independently. You can also talk to your bank before doing anything if you're unsure. Banks see scams every single day. They train their employees to recognize them. They would much rather answer your questions and help you avoid a scam than see you lose money and have to deal with the aftermath. Remember, being cautious does not mean you're paranoid or overly suspicious or unable to trust anyone. It means you're wise, experienced, and protecting everything you worked a lifetime to build. It means you're taking care of yourself. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Now, I want to bring us back to something really important because it's easy for videos like this to create too much hope or too much worry, and I want to make sure we end with realistic expectations and peace of mind. Not everyone is going to receive a special deposit, and that's genuinely okay. It doesn't mean you were overlooked. It doesn't mean someone else got something you deserved. It doesn't mean the system is unfair or that you've been cheated somehow. In most cases, it simply means your payments are already correct and up to date. That's actually a good sign, a really good sign. It means the system did exactly what it was supposed to do for you. It means your work history was recorded correctly, your benefits were calculated accurately, and your payments have been consistent and correct from the beginning. Try not to measure your situation against anyone else's. I know that's easier said than done. We're human. We compare. We wonder why our neighbor got something and we didn't. But Social Security is deeply, profoundly personal. Different work histories mean different benefit amounts. Different life paths mean different eligibility. Different benefit types have different rules. Two people could live next door to each other their entire lives, work the same number of years, and still receive completely different results from Social Security, and both results could be completely accurate and appropriate for their individual situations. If you don't see a deposit, the most important thing you can hold on to is peace of mind. Continue budgeting the way you normally do. Keep your savings as steady as you can. Stay informed, but avoid chasing every rumor or headline you see on social media or in your email. Not everything you read online is accurate, and not every story applies to your specific situation. And if something still doesn't feel right, if you truly believe there should have been an adjustment based on something specific in your case, you always have the option to ask questions through official channels. You can call Social Security directly. You can visit a local office. You can check your online account. But do it from a place of calm curiosity, not panic or desperation. My hope, my true and genuine hope, is that you come away from this video not just waiting to see whether money appears in your account, but understanding how the entire process works so that it doesn't control your emotions or your peace of mind. You've carried responsibilities your whole life. You've worked hard, raised families, paid your taxes, contributed to your communities, and done everything right. You deserve clarity. You deserve respect. You deserve honest information delivered without fear or manipulation. And you deserve to feel calm and confident about what's happening with your benefits, whether a deposit arrives or not. When we step back and look at the bigger picture, what really matters here isn't just whether a deposit arrives in your account this week or next week. It's understanding your money, feeling steady and grounded, and knowing you're not left in the dark about things that affect your daily life. Knowledge brings calm, and calm brings better decisions. That's something I've seen again and again in my 10 years of work with seniors across this country. When people know what's happening, when they understand the system and how it works, they stop worrying as much. They sleep better at night. They avoid rushing into choices out of fear or excitement. They're less vulnerable to scams. They make better decisions with their money, and they feel more in control of their own lives. And that's exactly what I want for you. If you receive a deposit, you'll now understand why it may have happened, how to confirm that it's legitimate, and how to use it wisely in ways that truly benefit your life. And if you don't receive anything, you'll also know that nothing is wrong. It simply means your benefits are already calculated correctly and there's no adjustment needed. Either way, you have clarity, and clarity is powerful. Clarity is peace. Clarity is control. I also want you to remember something important, something I want you to carry with you after this video ends. You've spent your entire life working, saving, caring for others, and doing the best you could with what you had. You've overcome challenges, you've adapted to changes, you've persevered through difficult times. Retirement isn't about chasing every new rumor or panicking over every headline you see online. It's not about constantly worrying whether you're missing out on something or whether you're doing everything perfectly. Retirement is about protecting your peace. It's about staying thoughtful, steady, and informed without letting every piece of news send you into a spiral of worry. It's about maintaining the wisdom and perspective you've earned through decades of life experience. That's all. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more updates.